Hey everyone, my name is Brayden, and this is All You Can Board. And today we're going to be looking at the new preview for the new champion coming up after Psylocke, Angel, today. And before we get into that though, if you're wondering why things look a little bit different, it's because we flipped over from Dylan's main hero side to the alter ego side, which is me today. So I'm going to be rolling through the preview with you guys here. And today we've got an aerial extravaganza. Tons of new aerial cards and the way that they're interacted with, along with our next champion that has a third fold outside. So let's just jump into it, shall we? Because we've got a lot to cover here today. 18 cards, starting with, of course, the alter ego side, which you can see here. Worthington III. He is a mutant, hand size 6, so pretty standard there, and hit points of 12. His alter ego action is regrowth. Heal 1 damage from Worthington III. Limit once per round. So you get once per run, you can heal, not per phase. That's something to note. Not hero and villain phase, once per round. So not incredibly powerful, but also just useful to flip over to heal without having to use your recovery of 3, which comes base with Worthington III. That's going to be a mouthful for the rest of this video, I can already tell. So this side isn't too interesting. Again, just very basic, heal of 1. That's really all you're going to be using for. Really where it gets interesting is into his hero side / sides, multiple sides. So let's go to that first one here. Angel with a thwart of 2, attack of 1, and defense of 2. He's got the aerial and X-Force traits, and of course hand size 5. So again, very standard, hit points 12. And his ability reads, Angel of Life, response, after you play an aerial event, draw a card. Limit once per phase. Now, Angel is a protection hero, so their defense is pretty good. Attack is, of course, a little bit on the lower side with only 1, but we'll kind of see why that is later on. And thwart of 2. So a good solid base thwart, good solid base defense here. Nothing crazy by any means, but really where he pops off is going to be playing aerial cards. And from what we've seen so far, when we get later on with the other cards, there's a lot of aerial cards here in his kit. So you're going to be drawing card after card. Again, limit once per phase, but you're going to have a little bit of extra utility in his kit, and you're going to be incentivized to put extra aerial cards, specifically with Angel and how they interact. Usually aerial cards up until now have just kind of given you the aerial trait, rocket boosters, things like this. But now we're getting cards that come with aerial already and are interacting now with Angel in a little bit of a different way. So, like I said earlier, this card actually folds out much like the Ant-Man and Wasp cards. So if we take a look now at the wide side, whoo, look at that art. We get Archangel. And if you guys don't know, I did a little reading up on where the background behind this is. Apparently, Archangel came from, oh no, I've lost the name of the villain who kind of turned him. No, it'll come to me later. We're going to keep going, though. Comment down in the comments below if you know what it is, because I can't think of it, and we just got to keep going. So, 0 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense. So, no thwart, a decent amount of attack, and a really solid, good base stat for defense. We can see they have an acceleration icon on them. They're aerial and X-Force. And their ability reads, Angel of Death. Response, after you play an aerial event, deal damage to an enemy equal to that event's printed cost. Limit once per phase. So very similar to Angel, but again, actually both of these were not forced responses. So you get to choose potentially which card or when you get to draw your extra card, or if you want to. In this case with Archangels, you are dealing damage equal to an aerial event's cost. So specifically has to be an event card. and it has to be aerial. But you get that extra damage on top of it. So obviously a very aggressive side, but still has a good solid amount of defense if you wanted to not use their base attack. You could sit there, defend with Archangel, and keep plunking away with their ability once per phase, playing those aerial events. So aerial defense events are super good here because then you get to do extra damage on the villain's turn as well. But, of course, there is a but, and this one's a big but. The thwart of 0 with the acceleration token, you're going to expect your schemes, your main schemes specifically, to be gaining more threat as you go. So that's going to be the tricky balance here. And again, still a hand size of 5, hit points of 12, so still same as Angel. We're not getting penalized in hand size like we do with Ant-Man going to 4 in giant size. So we still keep the hand size, but our threat on the main scheme is going to be going up faster. So if you're going to be playing him solo in something such as Rhino's, against Rhino and with his main scheme, it's going to be a little bit trickier to manage. You're really going to want to dip into this form and then dip out of it from there. So just be careful and be mindful of where your threat is when switching to this form. Otherwise, you can deal a lot of damage. And let me tell you right now, I'm going to say that this is going to be Dylan's favorite side for a hero. Okay, let's move on to this next card here. We have a 3-cost event card, Adaptive Plumage. I'm assuming it's Plumage. It's an aerial attack thwart. So hero action thwart. If you are Angel, remove 3 threat from a scheme and confuse an enemy. Or hero action attack. If you are Archangel, deal 4 damage to an enemy and stun it. So again, because this is an aerial and an event, it's going to fulfill both those criteria. So we can either draw a card from this card. So it's really only going to be costing us 2. But this is a very expensive card, but it does a lot for us, right? So Angel is going to be primarily our thwarting side. Removing 3 threat from a scheme and confusing an enemy, which would maybe let us flip to Worthington the Third, our alter ego side, and then heal up from there. That will allow us to do that. Or if we want to go super aggressive, this would really do, if you are an Archangel, you could potentially do 7 damage and a stun. Ooh, that's good. That's really, really good. A very, very strong card for the first one that we're looking here of Angels. Okay, moving on. We have Aerial Agility. And again, another 1-cost event aerial card. Dealing less damage on the Archangel side, obviously, with only 1 damage. But this would also potentially draw you a card on the Angel side. So let's take a look. Hero Interrupt, Defense. When an enemy attacks, if you are Angel, ignore each boost icon for ability for this attack. Or if you are an Archangel, give your hero a tough status card and gain Retaliate 1 for this attack. So if you are in Angel form, you're going to be drawing a card on the villain's turn. Again, if you're going to be an Archangel, you're going to be dealing that damage. So a low-cost card doesn't have too much effect, but it's going to help trigger those other abilities for you if you want, depending on where you are. And you get a tough status card right away, so you're not going to be taking any damage from the villain, and you get to deal 1 damage back. So if the villain has tough and they're going to be swinging on you, this could be a good card to be playing in defense while you're interrupting the villain attack to knock off that tough status card in Archangel form and then be able to retaliate back right away. And again, because it's not a forced response from Archangel, you don't necessarily have to use that 1 damage there. But you may as well, because it's probably the only other card that you're going to be playing usually in defense in your hero interrupt. So, okay, let's move along here to Natural Flight. 2-cost, another event card, aerial again, hero action thwart. Remove 4 threat from a scheme. If you're Angel, this thwart ignores the crisis icon and the patrol keyword. So just giving us a little bit more incentive to stay in Angel form if we really need to get some critical threat off the main scheme. If we're being prevented in some way because we've stayed in Archangel for so long and we're in a critical moment, Natural Flight is going to help us get rid of that threat off the main scheme and ignore those crisis icons that can be really pesky. Otherwise, a 4 for 2 is a pretty standard trade, although it does help, I think, a little bit more for threat. Usually it's, I think, 2 for 1 for damage. So not too bad of a card, but again, aerial and events, so it can be used in a couple different ways. And let's move on to the next one. 3-cost event, Razor Dive. Again, aerial as well. I wasn't kidding when we were talking about aerial extravaganza, let me tell you. And this is probably going to be one of Dylan's favorite cards, although I think the first one, the Plumage card, I think is probably going to be his favorite because it, I think, deals the most damage. But hero action attack deals 6 damage to an enemy. If you are Archangel, this attack gains overkill and piercing. So kind of a flip between Natural Flight, where Natural Flight, if we were in Angel, we get a little extra bonus by being in Angel form. In this case, we're still getting that same trade-off, 2 damage for 1 resource, so 6 damage for 3, but we would get overkill and piercing, so helpful against tough status cards, or if you're trying to blast through a minion and do some extra damage past that. So a helpful card for sure. Next one, Metamorphosis, a 2-cost event. Again, aerial as well. Lots of opportunities for aerial in his kit cards here for Angel. Action, change form. Then, if you are Warren Worthington, you get to draw a card. Sorry, Warren Worthington III. That was his grandfather. I mean, maybe it was his grandma. I'm not going to describe. Who knows? Comics are weird. Angel, if you land up in Angel, you remove 2 threat from a scheme, or if you change into Archangel, deal 3 damage to an enemy. Again, a really good versatile card here. It's going to be triggering your hero side actions, right? Regardless of where you're in, and you're going to be then changing form to whichever way. So if you would need to change form back to Angel to continue getting threat from a scheme, you can do that. If you need to go to Archangel now, you can do that when you've already changed once before. This gives us that versatility between the two, but because it's aerial and because it's an event, we're not just doing that just willy-nilly. We get to have a little bit extra on top of that too. So we changed to Archangel, really, really good. We deal 3 damage, and then we don't get that 2 damage because the event happens before, but if you're changing to Angel from Archangel, you're going to get that extra 2 damage and then 2 threats. So kind of like a Swiss Army knife, a bit of a card here. Okay, our first new resource card from Angel, Avian Anatomy. Response, after you spend this card to pay for an aerial event, return that event to your hand after resolving its effects. So this is an interesting one. You get an event, and then you can have that come back to you. So again, if you want to save one of his kit cards, for instance, maybe you want to use Metamorphosis, you can pay for Metamorphosis using this, and you get it to come back to you as well. And then maybe you get to use it again, or maybe you want to use Adaptive Plumage again to dive in and do 7 damage, and then continue to hit with that again. Now, that would take more cards than you probably have, but maybe you get a bunch of cards, or maybe you have a bunch of cards in some way or another. You've set it up in one way. So a lot of possibilities with this. It is a wild resource, only 1, but it does give you an option. Again, because we have so many aerial events in this deck, you're probably going to be able to get an extra card of it. So it almost basically works as a double resource, 1 wild, and then whatever card you're getting back from. Oh, okay. Let's move on to Psylocke, the signature ally here for Angel. Very cool. This is exciting for me too because of the versatility here. So 3-cost ally, not too steep. 3 health, solid. one thwart, one attack, both with a single consequential damage. But the interesting thing here is Psylocke's attack. You're going to be wanting to attack with her when you have her out, because here response after Psylocke attacks. Again, we're going back to if you're in Angel or Archangel form. If you're in Angel form, heal 1 damage from Psylocke, which is just going to be great. You get to heal at least 2 and be a chump blocker as well, which technically, if you think about it, would heal you more by taking a hit. Or if you're an Archangel, you get to ready your hero. So if you're going all out aggressive, which you likely are with Psylocke, or you have options at least, she's not only going to either heal you if you're in trouble, but also ready Archangel. So with his base 2 attack, you're going to start doing a good amount of damage with Psylocke. You get 4 damage just by having her out. So a really nice card, I think, to have in the kit of Angel, and not a super steep cost. She doesn't have aerial. She's psionic. She's X-Force. So, and obviously she's not an event, so it doesn't proc anything there. But a cool ally, and I like that it applies just to the attack and not to the thwart. So that's one thing to note. Okay, and we're getting a new basic resource card, the Power of Flight. I actually really like this art a lot. It says, double the number of resources this card generates while paying for an aerial card. So if we have an aerial card, this becomes like a genius. It becomes a double resource just like that. Nothing crazy. This is only for aerial resources, but the advantage to having to this is now we get an extra resource card that can act as a double resource. So we're not limited to those 3. Plus we have Avian Anatomy on top of that too. So nothing flashy by any means, but an interesting card, an interesting design. Again, really trying to push aerial. And the thing here too to note is it is just aerial cards across the board, not just events. And that plays into our next our first protection card. So that ends our hero specific cards, of course, with the basic card. So we're getting into our first ally here, protection ally Siryn Teresa Cassidy. 4 cost, fairly costly, but 2 thwart and 2 attack with a star, 1 consequential damage for each, and 3 health. Response after Siryn attacks, stun a minion. Very straightforward here. If there's not a lot of minions, this card is still not too bad. We're probably getting 4 damage and a block from it as well. It is a little on the expensive side, obviously, because of the stun for minions only. But versatility is there. It's not bad. I don't mind it. And again, with someone who has minion heavy that are maybe a little bit chunkier minions, this would be a great card to have, especially in a protection deck. Okay, the next protection ally we get here is Warpath, James Proudstar. 4 cost, 2 thwart with 2 consequential damage, and 2 attack with 1 consequential damage. 4 health, so 1 extra than our last one from Siryn, aerial, and toughness. And X-Force. Hero response, after Warpath defends against an attack, play an event with a hero action ability from your hand, paying its cost. Let's read that again. After Warpath defends against an attack, you get to play an event with a hero action card. So meaning when you don't have to have a hero interrupt, usually you would only be able to play these hero action cards on your turn. You have the opportunity to play this card at a different point in time, which could potentially have benefits. You could be dealing extra damage. You could be drawing extra cards ahead of your turn to prepare for your turn. There isn't a lot of advantage here. They add the extra health to kind of give them some beefiness, and the toughness card is very helpful. Similar to, I think it was Luke Cage as well, who comes with toughness. Let's put that here actually, so we can look at Luke Cage as well to kind of compare the two. I can't remember off the top of my head, but looking back now at Warpath, it's interesting. Right off the top of my head, this doesn't seem like a great card with playing the hero action, but I'm sure there's probably some good combos and some hero action cards that maybe you would want to play. Maybe specifically protection hero action cards that give you either retaliate or something else that you can build up when you get attacked too. Potentially could be an option for Warpath to be played. So slightly different, but some options there, some options. Okay, let's move on to our another aerial event in protection, Aerial Intervention. A 0-cost event. Interrupt when a character would take any amount of damage from an attack, exhaust an aerial character you control, and prevent up to 3 of that damage. So you get to prevent 3 damage. This is played for free. Yeah, you get to save 3 damage, although you have to exhaust and you're spending a card here. So you do get the aerial trait, but of course, if you're playing with this on Archangel, you get no damage for it. If you play this on the side of Angel, you get a card for it. So not too bad. You're cycling your deck. I would say this. You're probably going to primarily play this almost always in your Angel form rather than Archangel, just because of the 0 cost. And you're going to be taking yourself out by having to exhaust your hero as well. Or if you have an aerial ally, you can use them too. So a more niche card, I would say, but one that can find some value if you're in the specifically right hero form. All right, this is our 15th of 18 left here. We're going on to Taunt, a 1-cost event, not aerial. A tactic instead. Hero action, the villain attacks you. Other characters cannot defend against this attack. Draw 3 cards. So this card, again, can be situational. If you're playing a protection hero, oftentimes you're going to have things that mitigate damage from the villain. This is, if you have those cards ready to go in your hand, you're probably going to be maybe spending them along with Taunt as a hero action. So that it can help prevent damage from you and you get new cards. This is more of just cycling through. Of course, you're spending Taunt plus another card. So really, you can look at this almost as draw 1 card. You get a little bit of extra value, again, by cycling your deck. So not terrible. You get rid of a few cards, but it's interesting. I think there's a little bit of value there. You gain +1 card. Plus, depending if you play anything else on top of this, could be not too bad. Or you just take it straight up and you can gain essentially a card from it, and you get some new cards on top of that too. Maybe your hand wasn't quite synergizing, and you can get rid of a few cards to then maybe draw that combo that you would want. This could be a good card for those situations. Okay, protection tactic here again. Containment. I have to tilt my head because I can't read it vertically, apparently. Containment strategy. This is our last protection card. Or sorry, I'm lying. That's not our last protection card. There's one more after this. But this is an upgrade card. Again, another tactic. So attached to a non-permanent side scheme, max 1 per side scheme. And response, after a hero defends against an attack, remove 1 threat from attached scheme. 2 threat instead of if that hero took no damage. So if we've got some extra side schemes, you could attach this to the new hero side schemes as well, because they are, or wait, are they non-permanent? Yes, they are not permanent side schemes. Unless victory... I think they need to have the permanent keyword on there. I don't think victory applies to that. So you could potentially attach this to one of the hero side schemes, which again, we'll talk a little about later. Attached to a non-permanent side scheme, max 1 per scheme. An interesting one. This allows you to kind of get rid of some of the threat that's maybe on other schemes in alternate ways while also defending, which is what you want to do. So there's a little bit of good synergy kind of between wanting to defend and also getting rid of threat as well. Because sometimes with protection, you're often left having to defend with your hero, and then now you're exhausted, and now you can't do anything else unless you have Indomitable or other cards that let you ready after not taking any damage. This will allow you to get rid of threat no matter what. No matter what, as soon as you defend once, you're going to get rid of one threat, and that's going to continue kind of throughout. So a helpful card for getting rid of just on side schemes too. Probably going to be mostly used, I would say, for hero side schemes. And let's go to our new player side schemes. Sorry, not hero. We're going to look at Render Medical Aid at 0 cost player side scheme. Victory 0. When defeated, each player heals a total of 5 damage from characters they control. So this is going to be one that you want to play and use smartly. You have to decide when you are going to want to heal up that 5 damage. So whether that is on allies that you control to get some extra value out of them, whether through Psylocke or whomever, or healing that from you because you are in dire straits. And this will be 3 threat per player in the game. So if you're playing this solo, only 3 threat, not super big, not a big cost to it either. Pretty easy to get rid of. Generally, of course, only 2 base threat or base thwart on Angel's card. But if you pair that up with a few other cards, you'll be able to get rid of this pretty easily and be able to heal up 5 right away. So an interesting one that can be really timely. You want to get out early and then kind of leave in the background until you're ready to kind of pounce on it and be able to use it once and really need to use it. You can kind of think of it as almost like a delayed upgrade. And really the downside is just that you have to spend either an action or an extra card to get rid of that threat off of it so that you're ready to then heal 5. So yeah. And then our final card, moving on now, is Soaring Hearts. Soaring Hearts is a 2-cost event, aerial, psionic. Our team-up card here between Angel and Psylocke. Max 1 per deck. Hero action, search your discard pile for an identity-specific event and add it to your hand. Ready, Angel, and Psylocke. Solid card. We've seen already from the identity-specific events, they're very powerful for Angel/Archangel to be able to trigger those drawing cards or getting specific cards. Again, the Plumage card, I go back to that one. That one's probably my favorite card from this entire thing. Being able to deal a ton of damage and get it back to your hand. But even just getting a card in general is really good. Never mind an identity-specific card too. So really interesting pack, I think, overall. I think I like what they've done with Aerial here. It's not just the cards have Aerial on themselves rather than applying Aerial to something that doesn't have it after that. I'll be interested to see how much the acceleration token on Archangel affects how long you end up staying in that form as well. No thwart does hurt a lot, especially in protection. So you got to be very wary of that in which way they go. But the aerial cards are really interesting. I wonder if they continue with some of these other aerial cards to maybe build out his kit into other aspects. We'll have to wait and see until it all comes out. And I think that's pretty much it for today's hero review. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, thank you to our patrons as well. And of course, if you haven't already, join up on the Discord, of course. But that's it for today, guys. That was Angel, released today as the preview for Marvel Champions. I'm Braden. This is All You Can Board. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.